everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to create a midi skirt with a side slit and a ruffled hem. I'm going to insert a picture right here on the screen so you can see my inspiration. So for this project I ordered my fabric online, which was probably not the greatest idea since I always find that you can never tell how the fabric flows. I ordered this fabric. It is a tan color fabric. The print kind of reminds me of Fred Flintstone. I ordered 120 centimeters of it and the width of the fabric is 140 centimeters. Let me just show you the fabric that I thought this was similar to. So I have, for example, this green viscose. It's pretty lightweight, but it's not see-through. And this one is a bit stiffer, so I'm not sure how the ruffles will end up looking on the skirt, but I'm going to go ahead and make the skirt out of this anyway. Besides your fabric, you will also need some fabric scissors, a pencil, a measuring tape, and an invisible zipper. As for the measurements, you'll need 2 measurements for this project. You'll need your waist measurement and then the length of your skirt. So depending on where you want your skirt to sit, you'll have to measure downwards up until the point that you want your skirt to reach. Okay, so let's get started and create a pattern for the skirt.
So first you're going to write down your measurements. I'm going to use 66 centimeters for my waist measurement and my desired skirt length is about 68 centimeters. I'm going to do a quarter of a circle skirt. As you can already tell from its name, the pattern for this skirt is made out of a quarter of a full circle. So this green area right here is going to be my skirt. And now you basically need to figure out the length of your inner circle and the length of your outer circle. I'm going to use my black pen to write out the formula, and you can use that with your own measurements. And I'm going to also use my blue pen to figure out my measurements as well. So for the inner circle, you're first going to need to multiply your waist measurement by 4. Then add your seam allowance, which is usually 3 centimeters, so 1.5 for each edge of the fabric. Then divide this number by 2 times pi, which is 6.28, and this is your inner circle measurement. Now to figure out the outer circle measurement, you'll need to take your skirt length and add the inner circle measurement to this. Then subtract the width of your waistband, which will be around 5 centimeters in my case. Then add your seam allowance and subtract the length of the ruffles. I added 3 centimeters for my seam allowance and about 10 centimeters for my ruffles. Now that I have my measurements, I can go ahead and make the pattern.
So first I'm going to make the pattern out of this wrapping paper that I have, just so I can have the pattern for future use as well.
So I had to stick some pieces of paper together to have enough paper for my pattern. And then you'll need your measuring tape and a pencil to draw out your pattern. Since you can't see very clearly how I made my pattern, I'm going to quickly show you on a smaller piece of paper. Let's assume that my inner circle measurement is 4 centimeters and my outer circle measurement is 9. You're going to start from a corner of your fabric and you'll need a 90-degree angle. So first, starting from the corner, you'll need to measure outwards using your measuring tape and make a mark at 4 centimeters, then connect the dots. Then do the same for the outer circle, so for the 9 centimeters. And this is your quarter of a circle pattern. Now let's move on to my real fabric. I'm going to place my pattern over my fabric, just like this, pin it in place and cut it out. Now it's time for the ruffle. I've decided to make my ruffles 12 centimeters wide, so I'm going to cut a long strip of fabric just along the rounded edge of the fabric, so basically right under from where my skirt was cut off. And you will probably need 2 of these pieces for the ruffle. So the ruffle pieces will be cut on an angle. Next you'll need a waistband. This time I'm going to use a straight edge of my fabric and cut off a 12 centimeters wide piece of fabric which will then be folded in half to create a waistband. And the length of your waistband should be your waist measurement plus about 3 centimeters seam allowance. Now try your skirt on and mark the place and the height of your slit. Make sure the skirt is centered in the back. I'm going to make a side slit and it's going to be fairly high. Now starting from that point, draw a straight line downwards, then you can go ahead and round up the edges. Don't be afraid to cut off your fabric since there will be ruffles that will add on to the length of the skirt. So this is how my side slit turned out. And here is where I made my first mistake. I placed my ruffles facing down all along the edge of my skirt, thinking that the angle in which I cut my ruffles was enough to make them look wavy, but it didn't, so they ended up looking really weird, so I had to undo the stitch, add some more fabric to my ruffle piece to make it longer, and create some gathering on one edge of the fabric to basically create ruffles. If you've watched more of my videos, you already know how to do that. You basically need to set your machine to the highest stitch length and sew a straight line across, making sure that you don't backstitch at any point. Then pull lightly on a thread to create ruffles. You can also do this by hand, not only with a sewing machine. And this time they turned out really nice, they actually look like ruffles. So I pinned them again facing down to the right side of my fabric, then sew them using a straight stitch and finish the edges using a zigzag stitch. And this is how the ruffles look on my skirt. Now you'll just need to hem the edge of the fabric. Now let's move on to the waistband. I'm placing the pieces of fabric right sides together, pinning them and sewing along the edge of the fabric using a straight stitch. Then I'm pressing the seam and folding the upper edge of the fabric inwards. And now I'm folding it again in half, and this is my waistband. And now it's time to add the zipper on the back of the skirt. Place the zipper as if it was sewn on, and make a mark across right where the seam of your waistband is. This way you won't end up with a wonky zipper even though you have to open it while sewing. Now open the zipper and place it facing down on one side of the skirt, pin it in place and sew it using a straight stitch. Now do the same thing on the other side. Now that the zipper is sewn in, you can go ahead and close the back of the skirt using a straight stitch. Then go ahead and finish the edges using a zigzag stitch. To make sure the waistband stays in place, you'll need to sew a straight stitch along the seam of your waistband, so basically you'll need to stitch in the ditch. Then come back to the ironing board and iron your ruffles flat so they will lay nicely. And this is my finished skirt. Although my fabric was not perfect for this project as I suspected, I really like it and I think I'm going to make myself another one. If you want to recreate this, my advice to you would be to use a flowier fabric and to make sure that the fabric has the same pattern or color on the wrong side as well, since you can see the inside of the fabric when moving. Or you could also double the fabric for the ruffle if it's not too thick. As usual, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to tag me or send me a picture with your creation if you are going to make this skirt. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And I'll see you in my next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.